Good evening, you are watching ReNEWS in English. I'm Sona Tumanyan. From Parliament to Cabinet plus international headlines, a quick look at today's news. What does strategic partnership mean? Nikol Pashinyan explains. Meeting of the Prime Ministers of Armenia and Azerbaijan. With what logic will the delimitation continue? Will Russia's carelessness provoke a new war? Poland is inflamed. What steps will NATO take? Yerevan's cultural monuments have new lighting. What prospects does the development of nuclear energy have in Armenia? Henrik Mkhitaryan as a target for the Armenian national team. Will there be a return? Delegation led by the Deputy Prime Ministers of Armenia and Azerbaijan met last week in the border regions of both countries, specifically in the southern parts of Armenia's Sunik province and Azerbaijan's Zangilan district. The delegations included representatives from the Commissions on Border Delimitation and Border Security of Armenia and Azerbaijan, with members from their respective Ministries of Defense, Foreign Affairs, Territorial Administration, and National Security Services. Discussions are ongoing regarding the date and location of the next meeting. The crucial question of whether to continue the border delimitation process from Tavush or Sunik province also remains unresolved. The Armenian government convened today with 30 items on its agenda, 27 of which were non-reporting. A key decision approved the donation of a sniper training complex at the Ministry of Defense's Bagramian training ground to the ministry. The Royal Sys Engineering Company, which installed the complex between 2020 and 2022 using its own funds and with the ministry's approval, offered to donate the facility. Valued at $290,096,000 drams, approximately 750,000 USD, the complex has been successfully operational since 2022. The Ministry of Defense deemed the acquisition of property appropriate. It was a far from ordinary Wednesday in Armenia's National Assembly as Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan took center stage, brandishing a recently signed document from Washington. The Prime Minister delved into discussions on peace and the proposed transit route through Sunik, captivating a lively parliamentary session. Pashinyan also addressed the crucial stances of Russia and Iran, asserting that the Washington agreements actually present an opportunity to deepen Armenian-Russian and Armenian-Iranian relations. He confirmed direct discussions on this matter with both Russian and Iranian counterparts. The session then turned philosophical, with a poignant question hanging in the air: what truly defines strategic cooperation faced with a choice between marriage and friendship? Samin Hovanesyan was on hand to cover the day's parliamentary proceedings.
This is an objective reality in the document, with the signatures of the leaders of Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the United States. The word corridor is not in here. This is an objective reality according to Pashinyan. But there is also a subjective perception.
The
rest is a subjective reality, and it is obvious, and I state clearly, that there cannot be an infrastructure in the territory of the Republic of Armenia that exists under your name. But I cannot rule out that this name has become so popular in Azerbaijan due to objective and subjective circumstances that Azerbaijan can name any infrastructure passing through its territory, including those that are supposed to connect to the Tump route, for example. Any name and in the name of any person. Ours is the trip. We are the masters of our trip.
This was not discussed in Washington and has nothing to do with the obligations undertaken by Armenia, says Pashinyan. Today was the day for questions and answers at the National Assembly, during which the Prime Minister also touched upon Armenia's multi-vector foreign policy. He says we need to open our eyes and look at the real Armenia in the real world.
A strategic partnership is like a marriage, so you have to do it with one person. And instead, but it's really been like that, as much as, I don't know, it probably sounds amusing, but this is the bitter reality. We have been an independent state for 34 years, and we are yet to understand that partnership is not marriage. That partnership is friendship. That is, if, what is the difference? The difference is that if you get married and have more than one partner, you are cheating. But when you have more than one friend, it means you are a normal person who has more than one and you have friends, and your circle of friends is expanding.
What happened in Washington, according to the Prime Minister, provides an opportunity to deepen relations with Russia and Iran, and not the other way around.
Now, are there concerns? Of course there are. Were there these concerns before August 8th? Of course there were. Will these concerns exist? These concerns will always exist. And this is a natural process, and our politics, our diplomacy, and our foreign relations are not about anything else. They are about only one thing: The parties share their concerns with each other and begin to look at how they can cooperate to manage and dispel those concerns. This is the whole essence of international relations.
Pashinyan also referred to the dialogue and discussions with the opposition, or rather the lack thereof.
The ruling majority has discussions about these concerns. We are looking for solutions. Come, you too can participate. They did not want to participate. It is their problem that they did not want to participate. We have discussed and found solutions, and we've reached solutions. And if, for example, we compare the opposition's discourse in January 2025 with today's reality, we will see a growing gap. And when we compare our discourse from January with the discourse from August, we will see a strategy and the implementation of that strategy.
Peace has been established, claimed the foreign minister and his leader, in response to questions from pro-government MPs, which begin with almost identical statements.
In fact, what happened is a truly momentous event, both at the level of the signed texts, on that plane, and we can say the same when looking at the subsequent verbal reaffirmations by the leaders of the countries during their interactions with the press following the signatures. Peace has been established.
Ararat Mirzoyan also notes that peace will not be easy because the two countries have fought against each other.
Today we are working, for example, on unblocking. We assume that contacts will intensify, they already exist today, and in the future they will intensify with our American partners to understand the Armenian-American joint with regard to the Armenian railway and other infrastructures. You remember we said that nothing is agreed upon except what is written and published.
Nikol Pashinyan also spoke about defense spending.
Nikol Pashinyan, the defense expenditures for 2026 have a natural growth compared to 2024. That is, the formal arithmetic is one thing, but the natural reality, so to speak, is another. And the fact that we do not foresee an increase in defense spending for 2026 compared to 2025, and a decrease is foreseen, is connected with and related to this first and foremost. But there are also other factors which, if necessary, I can share with the Parliament in a closed-door session.
He noted that in 2025, we had a sharp increase in the defense budget, a part of which was directed to repaying future debts. This is what has disrupted the balanced growth. Simon Hovanesyan, ReOpen Media.
The Civil Contract Party is gearing up for a significant conference on September 20th, and Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan himself has stirred anticipation, has taken to social media to unveil the draft of the party's revised statute hinting at a fresh chapter for civil contract. Pashinyan also published the conference agenda, with the adoption of this new statute being a key highlight. The highly anticipated event will take place at the Karen Demirjan Sports and Concert Complex. The unblocking of communication routes in the South Caucasus is poised to open Armenia's economic lungs, according to Economy Minister Gevorg Baboyan. Baboyan indicated that American and Turkish delegations are expected soon to advance the Trump Route project. He highlighted current construction, stating, "Armenia becoming a transport hub is now in the practical stage. Residents of Magri and Kapan daily witness the mountains being cleared and a new north-south road being constructed. With 75% of land and borders currently closed, Baboyan believes unblocking these routes would significantly boost Armenia's economy and reduce import prices." The global security situation in Europe has become extremely tense. Alleged Russian drones have appeared in Polish airspace. Warsaw has even requested NATO invoke Article 4 for consultations on collective defense. Poland is a NATO member bordering Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia's Kaliningrad exclave. A Russian attack on Poland could trigger a world war, as NATO would be forced to intervene. Meanwhile, Russians claim the drones that reached Poland came from Ukraine. By the way, Slovenia, Denmark, Greece, France, and the United Kingdom have called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on Friday. The session will discuss the alleged violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones. In response to the drone incursions, Sweden will send fighter jets and air defense systems to Poland.
The Russian-Ukrainian war has once again crossed NATO's border. Poland's Ministry of Defense announced that it shot down Russian drones that violated the country's airspace. Immediately after the strikes, Prime Minister Donald Tusk called an emergency meeting at 8 a.m. Warsaw's Chopin airport reopened after being closed for several hours. Poland, a member of the North Atlantic Alliance, has termed the incident an act of aggression. Prime Minister Tusk stated that the drones were destroyed as they posed a direct threat to the country's security. Ruben Johnson, who has analyzed defense systems of various countries for 36 years, considers the appearance of Russian drones in Polish skies a deliberate act, a sentiment he expressed to the BBC before our video call.
This was deliberate. Okay, it's clear it was deliberate, because We've heard all kinds of numbers. I've heard 12. I've heard as many as 14 drones. Now that's way beyond the level of chance or accident or okay. So now what does all this mean? This means that the Russians are practicing what they always practice, and this is a strategy of theirs that they spend a lot of time on and they invest a lot of resources in. It's called reflexive control. Reflexive control says you try to manipulate a situation in such a way that it causes your adversary to unknowingly make decisions that are bad for him.
This is not the first time Russian weaponry has entered the territory of NATO member countries. Since the very beginning of the conflict in 2022, Russian drones have repeatedly entered Polish and Romanian airspace, but until now there haven't been so many, nor had they been shot down. Ukrainian President Zelensky reported that Russia used 415 drones and 40 missiles against Ukraine overnight, adding that at least 8 of them were directed towards Poland.
This is an extremely dangerous precedent for Europe. A strong response is needed, and such a response can only be a joint response from Ukraine, Poland, all Europeans, and the USA.
Responses are also coming from the U.S. and Belarus. In the U.S., Democratic Senator Dick Durbin stated that repeated violations of NATO airspace show that Putin is trying to test their resolve. The chief of the General Staff of the Belarusian Armed Forces claims they had previously informed Poland about the UAVs that crossed the border. In turn, Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly stated that Western claims that Russia could attack NATO members are nonsense. The Russian Ministry of Defense has not yet commented on the incident. Poland has been on high alert since November 2022, when, according to official information, a Ukrainian air defense missile struck a village in the south of the country, killing 2 people. Polish Prime Minister Tusk announced yesterday that the country will close its border with Belarus due to the Zapad 2025 joint Russia-Belarus military exercises scheduled for September 12th through 16th.
There is a major Russian-Belarusian military exercise that takes place every 4 years. And it's called Zapad, Z-A-P-A-D, which is a Russian word for meaning West. And that's a provocative name to begin with, because what it says is, well, we're having a dress rehearsal for when we invade the West. That's what it means.
Against the backdrop of escalation in the region, the European Union is beginning to arm itself with greater momentum. This Tuesday, Poland's Deputy Prime Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz announced that the European Union will allocate 43.7 billion euros to Poland to strengthen its defense.
This decision is a great success for Poland and a guarantee for further investments in security and the development of our defense industry.
EU Foreign Minister Kaja Kallas announced on her X page.
Last night in Poland, we saw the most serious violation of European airspace by Russia since the start of the war, and the data shows it was intentional, not accidental. The EU expresses its full solidarity with Poland.
In early September, Kaja Kallas announced that Europe had begun implementing the largest military project in modern history. An additional 2 trillion euros will be allocated for defense spending by 2031. According to Ruben Johnson, escalation in the region is inevitable.
I see all kinds of chances for escalation in this part of the world. It's inevitable. I hope that what happened today has been a wake-up call for some people.
NATO is closely following developments, with its executive head being more cautious compared to partners. Alliance Secretary General Mark Rutte noted that he is in constant contact with the Polish leadership and that consultations are ongoing.
Arab and Islamic nations are planning an emergency summit in Qatar's capital Doha, following an Israeli strike targeting Hamas leadership members in the city. The meeting could take place as early as next week, according to Sky News Arabia. Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani has held phone calls with leaders and foreign ministers from Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Oman, Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon. All officials condemned Israel's strike on the residences of Hamas leadership in Doha, calling it a gross violation of all norms of international law. The Israeli military's press service announced on September 9 that its air force had carried out strikes against Hamas representatives based in the Qatari capital. Armenian Defense Minister Suren Papikyan has extended his congratulations to France's newly appointed Prime Minister Sebastian Lecornu on his X page, and I quote, "I extend my warmest congratulations to Sebastian Lecornu on his appointment as PM. I wish to express my profound gratitude for our excellent collaboration and his remarkable actions at the Ministry of Armed Forces and strategic partnership between Armenia and France." By the way, 521 arrests, including 251 in Paris, followed a day of anti-government protests that saw 13 police injured. Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau stated nearly 200,000 people protested nationwide, with authorities successfully preventing attempts to paralyze the country. Clashes in Paris included tear gas, burning vehicles, and a restaurant fire. The unrest follows Prime Minister François Bayroul's dismissed overdead plans and the appointment of Sebastian Lecornu as a new head of government. Conservative activist and Trump ally Charlie Kirk was assassinated during a speech at the University of Utah, with the suspect still at large. President Trump called the killing political and ordered flags lowered until Sunday. Today marks the 24th anniversary of the 11th of September terrorist attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 people. A memorial ceremony is being held at the former World Trade Center site in New York. The attacks claimed by Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda led to the U.S. war in Afghanistan and subsequent military operations in the Middle East. New Israeli airstrikes on Yemen reportedly killed at least 9 and wounded 118, according to Houthi health officials. Missiles targeted military buildings and infrastructure in Sana'a, causing fires and destruction. Houthi leader Mahdi al-Mashad vowed continued attacks and warned Israel of an inevitable response. Former Armenian President Serge Sargsyan has seized on the recent removals of prime ministers in France and Nepal, using the events as a springboard to reignite discussions about the impeachment agenda in Armenia. Sargsyan specifically highlighted the differing methods of removing heads of government, drawing parallels to his long-standing call for greater accountability in Armenian politics.
What happened in the world yesterday? 2 major events in Nepal and France, and 2 ways to, shall we say, oust or impeach a government that does not enjoy the people's trust. One way was Nepal's, with violence and killings, and the other was France's, through parliament. Now, what should we offer our people?
Following yesterday's renewed cooperation and new agreements between Iran and the IAEA, our attention now turns to the development of atomic energy in Armenia. The country has signed agreements with Russia and aims to work with Americans and a modular reactor sector. However, the construction of a new power unit for the Metamor nuclear power plant remains uncertain. Saman Havanisyan has explored the potential prospects for development in this field.
Construction on a new power unit for Armenia's nuclear power plant was slated to begin early this year. However, a clear answer from the Nuclear Safety Regulatory Committee on whether it has started remains elusive. We've submitted an inquiry and are awaiting a response. In 2022, an intergovernmental agreement was signed between Armenia and Russia for the construction of a 1,200 megawatt power unit. According to Aram Majanian, a national energy expert for the UN in Armenia, this atomic power unit would cost approximately $3 to $5 billion. Armenia and the United States have also signed a strategic memorandum of understanding establishing new foundations for cooperation in energy security. The most notable point of the memorandum concerns the civil nuclear sector, with both parties agreeing to expand cooperation, specifically emphasizing small modular reactor technologies. This indicates that Armenia, alongside extending the operational life of the Metsamor nuclear power plant, is officially considering the possibility of building a new generation, safer, and smaller American nuclear power plant. This step could fundamentally change Armenia's energy future, reducing its dependence on traditional technologies and partners. However, Archer Avatisyan, an energy security expert, believes that the signed document does not imply the immediate implementation of U.S. technology, but merely expresses an intention. Armenia would need to join several international conventions to be able to adopt U.S. nuclear technology.
In colloquial terms, you can't build it just anywhere. It's not a small shack or a solar power plant that anyone can build wherever they want. There are strict requirements. Even if we don't have that capacity, the IAEA won't allow it, because any such endeavor cannot be realized without the IAEA's permission or license.
Avatisyan also states that modular power plants cannot be built everywhere. There are specific norms. In Armenia, the primary site considered is Metsamor, where a platform has been designated since the Soviet era. He notes that besides Metsamor, the only other location considered for a modular plant is in Sunik, near the ZPMC, if a copper smelter is built there.
There's a simple question here. When they talk about it being safer, that's highly debatable because no such plant exists in any country in the world. Who said it's safer? It's advertising. Naturally, every manufacturer needs to advertise their product. That's why I also mention, if Armenian officials don't announce it but nevertheless have that American decision, then until they sign 123, in no case can Armenia even consider any American option.
Meanwhile, the IAEA does not regret allowing the Armenian nuclear power plant to continue operating.
Armenia's economy relies on the Metsamor ANPP, and the IAEA will continue to support the plant to safely provide low-carbon energy.
However, according to the expert, Armenia needs a new power unit by 2036 because the country requires a nuclear power plant. Regarding modular plants, the expert states,
As for the expediency of modular plants, their expediency is very debatable. It has nothing to do with whether it's an American option or another option. If Armenia had the time to make decisions or make mistakes, perhaps it would consider modular options, but Armenia doesn't have that time.
The first power unit of the nuclear plant, built 36 kilometers directly from Yerevan, is not in operation. The design life of the second unit expired in 2016. After extensive modernization, its operating license was extended until 2026. Efforts are currently underway to extend its operational life by another 10 years, reaching until 2036. Simon Ovanesson, ReOpen Media.
Following their victory over Ireland, Evocabank has taken on another crucial strategic mission. The head coach of the Armenian national football team will attempt to bring Harith Mkhitaryan, the Inter Milan midfielder, back to the national squad. Yes, I have spoken with him and I cannot say what was discussed, but I hope we will speak more, Evocabank told public television. I think I definitely need to go to Italy and sit down with him, talk. For now, I don't know his specific opinion. We will have dinner, we will talk. I will definitely try. Mardira Saryan, Yagasha Charens, Alexander Tamanyan, Vazgen Sargsyan, and Tigran the Great. Their statues now stand illuminated with new lighting. The mayor of Yerevan has published a video on his Facebook page, which you can see in my background, showcasing the new illumination of the cultural and historical monuments across the capital city of Yerevan. This much for today. I'm Sona Tumanyan. Stay informed with ReNews. Good night.